Welcome back in on The Point. Thank you for being with us. 4:34 our time. I'm excited about our next guest because every time this man calls, I feel like, I kind of feel like running through a wall. I feel like we can do better. I feel like he's a pretty inspirational guy, and I enjoy our visits very much. Joining us now on the hotline, we want to say hello and welcome back to candidate for governor Republican Reddy, who's with us. And Ram, welcome back to The Point, and thank you for the time.
Kevin, thank you. I always enjoyed doing your show. It's been almost a year now.
Right.
I've been doing it.
Yeah. You kind of started this thing here and really, we introduced you to the Midlands, and then you just kind of took off and ran, and the whole state jumped on board with a lot of the messaging that you were putting out there. And now obviously you're getting positive response from people from all corners of South Carolina. So give me an idea. I mean, give me a vibe. How do you feel? You've been through one of the debates now. How do you feel about how things are going for you?
Well, let me tell you, I always like to just listen to myself sometimes and trust my instincts. I think on this debate stuff and all that, last time I did it was 50 years ago, and I think I listened too much to too many people. I just need to be myself, I think, which I'll do next time around. So it's a simple, I say it's a simple choice, Kevin, the reason I'm in it. Our generation, I mean, you, me, your listeners, I don't think we've ever had a candidate in South Carolina history that is not taking any money whatsoever from anyone, no special interest, no nothing. And I do not think this generation will ever have another candidate that doesn't do that. So I wake up every morning and I think about how can I benefit the people, not how can I benefit my donors. You know, I've experienced the tyranny of government. I know what it is to take on these people and win. It did traumatize my family, so I know what people go through. But for all the people out there, and I've heard so many stories, whether I know you personally or not, I see you, I hear you, and I will not fail you. And I think this is the opportunity for us to get someone in there with no special interest, no donors, no nothing, and say it is time for us to go back to, the last sentence of the Declaration, Kevin. The last sentence of the Declaration said, for the support of this Declaration, with the firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. And that's what we're going to have to do. That's what we're going to have the courage to do. And the key in the Declaration was what? Our rights come from God. They transcend government's power and authority. And government's job is to protect those rights. And we have gotten away from that. And I will get it back. I will stop traumatizing citizens. We have weaponized government against the citizens. It's got to stop. The people have been in office for 53 years. Kevin, 10 years ago, you were here.
Yes.
Our education, our roads, our median family income, our health care, our crime, all bottom 10 in the nation. Today, we have doubled spending over the last 10 years. Our taxes are high and keep going up. We are bottom 10 in all those major metrics or any other major metric you can think of. So this is a colossal failure. They try to cover up the lack of results. In business leadership, we say it's all about results. In politics, it's all about messaging. I love it. You got these guys running. I was listening on stage. I couldn't believe these people are saying this thing, and that's why citizens are so cynical. Norman says, "I'm not a career politician. I'm going to clear out all the career politicians." And it's been in office in government for 21 years. How does that make you a career politician? And then he talks about term limits. Where does it start at 30 years? If you've been in there for 20 years. So this is why the citizen is so cynical about all of this stuff. They're just tired of it. They're cynical about it, and they just want to see their lives get better.
We're talking with Reddy, candidate for governor as a Republican in South Carolina. I think it's interesting hearing what you said about yourself, almost a self-analysis, self-criticism. that you got to follow your gut, you got to follow your instinct when it comes to
I got to be myself.
Yeah, be you. Yeah. Let Rom be Rom. That's what I always would say about you.
Yeah.
Is let Rom be Rom.
Yeah.
The thing is, you are a guy that you haven't been afraid to, and this is in air quotes, you haven't been afraid to fight City Hall. You've proven that you're not afraid to fight City Hall, and I've enjoyed that in getting to know you in the last year about that. You went to court, you fought, a case that you knew very, very well that the odds were stacked against you, but it wasn't about the money; it was about the principle.
Yep, that really that's exactly where it was, and FDR said it the best, Kevin. He said, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but that's something else that's more important than fear." And that's all it is. We have to have the courage to do it. But I'm going to ask you to do me a favor and make sure your listeners know that on Thursday at 5:30 p.m. actually, we are going to be in your neck of the woods in Irmo at Liberty on the Lake. And we're going to have a fun event. We're going to answer all kinds of questions. We're going to take, we do these things. It's all open questions. Nothing is banned. And these events are a lot of fun. If you're available, you should show up there. Maybe do your show from there or something.
Yeah. For folks that don't know, Liberty on the Lake is 1602 Marina Road. That's over in Irmo. It's a beautiful site, by the way. I think you're going to enjoy seeing how nice it is right there on Lake Murray. And if people want to, they could show up, but they can RSVP that they're coming by going to your website, right?
Yes, it's Ready for Governor, REDDY for governor.com. Just go in there, just register there and RSVP there. And we would love to see people. It's going to be so much of fun. And, and I think people are beginning to understand that on the 250th anniversary of the Declaration, we can't be passive spectators anymore. We just cannot. We must find in ourselves the same level of courage that our signers did, so we can do for our future what they did for theirs. And I think this is our chance. This is the opportunity. I don't know that we'll have this opportunity in our generation again. Just look at the other side, and they got all these. It's funny. I was on stage. I was the only Mister on there. Where it was congressman, congresswoman, senator, AG, LG, and I was the Mister. And I think it's people just. I think if people wake up and realize what's going on, they'll do it. And people will realize there's good people like you who are trying to get messages out. And then there's the press. The press. There's two pieces to the press. There's the liberal, mainstream media, and then you got all these blogs like, Fitz and all these other places that they're all pay to play. The minute. When we used to pay these guys some consulting to consult for Doge SC, to figure out this legislature, because it's pretty complicated when we're getting the judicial reform bill through. But when I decided to run for office, I felt it was not right, to pay someone to say nice things about you. So we said, we're not going to do it. So now they say horrible things about me. But, that's I used to have this thing in my handbook at work for every one of the businesses I own. It said, when in doubt, take the path of highest integrity. And I try and do that, but in politics, it seems like it definitely gets in the way.
Well, you still have a right to defend yourself. I mean, you could take the high road, but you still have a right to explain to people where you're coming from and defend your positions and things like that. So let me ask you this before I let you go, Ron, because, listen, we're South Carolina. We're not Florida. We're not North Carolina. We're not Tennessee or Georgia. But we look at all the other southeastern states and look at the ways they do things. And I know you're friends with Governor DeSantis down in Florida. They've got no income tax, and now they're even trying to get rid of property taxes down there. Pretty tax-friendly state, the state of Florida. Like I said, I know we're not Florida, but it is pretty interesting the path they're on.
Yeah, but just remember what taxes are, Kevin. Taxes are all about spending. The more you spend, the more you got to tax, right? I mean, that's it. It starts with spending, and people don't realize that. I saw Nancy Mace said something on stage about she's going to freeze the tax and give the tax back in terms of a tax rebate. Well, she's freezing at 11 billion. We're already spending 15.5 billion. How are you going to get from 15.5 to 11? But this is all, what I call S&M, smoke and mirrors. So it's all about spending. Florida is spending $2,200 less per person per year than South Carolina. And this is what I do. This is my wheelhouse. This is what we do when we buy businesses and restructure them. We have this thing to go in there and start cutting the state spending, which will directly impact income taxes, and cutting the local spending and school district spending that directly impacts property taxes. And we actually have the tools to do that. We developed the tools as Doja see with these forensics audits and all that ready to go on day one. We're just going to go in there. We got to hit the spending big time. Big time.
It's very refreshing to hear someone saying, instead of promising this and that, it's got to be because of responsibility. We have to be more responsible, and our government has to be more responsible with the people's money. And it is my money, it is your money as South Carolinians. And when I look at some of the waste, some of the things, some of the pet projects that money is spent on in this state, obviously even at the city level, I see it here in Columbia, some of the things, the county level, I see it, obviously the federal level is absurd. But here at the state level, we could do so much better. For a state that is growing as fast as South Carolina is, the spending has grown that much faster per capita. It's not even in line with the growth of the state. It's significantly higher than our growth.
No comparison. I say they're addicted to opium, and opium here is OPM, other people's money. So they're addicted to spending opium. They're just addicted to other people's money. This year they messed around and they said, I'm giving you a tax cut. And they did some tiny little tax cut. But guess what? The spending went up almost 10%. You cannot just think of a two-income family.
Sure.
And you decide you're going to cut out one income, right? That's like cutting out income tax or cutting out one income. If you don't cut your spending, you're going to be bankrupt. So it has to start with spending. These guys don't know how to do it. People who have been in office don't know how to do it. Take the difference between governing and, say, Congress. Nancy talked about she introduced 65 bills. How many got passed into laws? 0. But so in governing, if I have 65 at-bats, I'm going to get 50 hits. That's
sure.
The difference between governing and getting results, and Congress and all these things and messaging. And I hope the citizens, I hope your listeners understand that.
Ram, it's great visiting with you. Again, the website for folks that want to learn more about you and also maybe RSVP for Thursday evening's event over at Lake Murray. What is it?
Yes, it's readyforgovernor.com, REDDY for governor.com, and the Thursday evening event is at Irmo, Liberty, and Lake, Thursday at 5:30 p.m. We'd love to see you and meet all of your listeners.
Wonderful.
And you.
Yeah, wonderful. Hey, listen, congratulations on where you're at right now. Keep your momentum going, and thank you for making time for us.
Thank you, Kevin. Always enjoy it.
My pleasure. Thank you, sir.